Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make the bareback version of the maxi mesh dress that you can see on the screen right now. So we already have a tutorial as well as a written pattern for a version of this dress that has more coverage towards the back. As you can see on the screen, we have the video demonstrating that as well as the photos side by side. So we already have that, and all the links to these tutorials and patterns will be left in the description box below, so don't forget to check those ones out. We also have a tutorial and written pattern for this pretty mesh skirt that is of the maxi length, and the Apricity crochet top is also on the channel already, so all the links will be in the description box below. Let's jump into the materials. So for the project we shall need a measuring tape, definitely, and then our crochet hook, which is 5mm, and then a darning needle, a pair of scissors, and the yarn that we are using is winterking. It's a 4-ply acrylic yarn, and I used about 10 balls to complete the whole project, and each ball of this is 150 yards. So let's get started. For the purposes of demonstration of the stitch, I will be using the orange color so that we can see exactly what's taking place. And the moment you get the hang of the stitch, we shall switch onto the actual piece, which is black. That's the order that I received. And yeah, later on in the video, I'll be introducing the actual piece and you'll be seeing how everything works out. So you're going to get your crochet hook and start off with a slip knot. And we're going to make a chain. This chain should be a multiple of 3 plus 5 chains and should be half your hip measurements. Since we are working the dress in 2 panels, that means we have to do 2 pieces that will be later joined. So we are considering half the hip measurement, and the hip measurement that I'm considering for this skirt is 40 inches. That means each panel should be a length of 40 divided by 2, 20 inches. So you're going to make a chain, a multiple of 3 plus 5, but that chain should be 20 inches, which is half our hip measurement. This dress is worked from the bottom all the way up. So we're going to first work the skirt portion of the dress, as you'll see later on in the video, and then we shall transform that skirt shape into an actual dress. I've started with a chain of 71, and this measures half of the hip measurement, the hip circumference that we are considering, when slightly stretched. As you can see, when it's not stretched, it goes to 17.5 inches, but when slightly stretched, it can go to 20 inches. And when fully stretched, it goes beyond 20 inches. It's around 22 inches. So get a chain that, when slightly stretched, can get to half your hip measurement. And now we're going to start working the stitch. Now you're going to go into the 8th chain from the hook. So you're going to count from here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and into the 8th chain you're going to place a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So from here you're going to make a chain of 2, skip over 2 stitches, 2 chain stitches, 2 chains, and then you're going to go into the next chain with a double crochet. So the double crochet that we are using for this tutorial is in the US terms. So chain 2, skip over 2 chains, and double crochet into the next chain. Chain 2, yarn over, skip over 2 stitches, and double crochet into the next chain. So this is going to create a mesh pattern. You're going to repeat this all the way across until you have a total of 3 chains left on your row, and I'll show you what to do from there. now we have a total of 3 chains left on our row. You're going to make a chain of 2, skip over 2 chains, and then double crochet into the very last chain. So that marks the end of our mesh row. So let's go on to the next row. Row 2 is make a chain of 3, which counts as our very first double crochet. Turn your work, and then you're going to place 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space, and then 1 double crochet into the next double crochet, and then 2 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, 1 double crochet into the next double crochet, and we're going to repeat this all the way across. All right, we are almost coming to the end of the row, and we are still placing 2 double crochets in each chain 2 space and 1 double crochet in each double crochet. So when you have 1 space left, which is this one, you're going to go into that space with 2 double crochets, and then counting from the base, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the 5th chain you're going to place 1 double crochet on the edge, just like that. So that marks the end of row 2. Now we're going to go back to the mesh row, and you're going to start off with a chain of 5, which counts as a double crochet chain 2, and then turn your work. When you turn your work, you're going to skip over the next. This chain 5 is attached to the very first stitch, so you're going to skip over the next 2 stitches, and then into the next you're going to place a double crochet, and then chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next. So you're going to repeat this all the way across. Chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next. So you're going to continue until you have a total of 3 stitches left on your row, and keep in mind that the edge chain 3, the starting chain 3, counts as a stitch. So we have 1, 2, and the chain 3 on the edge of the row. So you're going to make a chain of 2, skip over the 2 stitches, and on top of the chain 3 you're going to place 1 double crochet, and that marks the end of row 3. So basically we are repeating 2 rows. We are going to repeat row 2 and 3, 2 and 3, until we get the length of the panel that we want. So that means row 4 is going to be the same as row 2, and that means even rows are the same and odd rows are the same. The odd rows are the ones that create the mesh pattern, and the even rows are the ones that create the block pattern, which is made of double crochet stitches all the way across. And then the other thing that you have to note, you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. So when you're placing these double crochets, you place them into the space. You don't go into the chains. You just go into the chain 2 space with 2 double crochets, just like that, and then go into the next stitch with a double crochet. I had to point out that because some people may go into the chains. So you just go into the spaces with 2 double crochets and then 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So you're going to keep repeating rows 2 and 3, 2 and 3, the mesh row and the block row, the mesh row and the block row, until you get to your hip bones, or just where you want your skirt to end. We're working this skirt from the base, from the feet all the way up. So you're going to get the length of the skirt that you want. If you want a short one, you can go ahead and do that. If you want a long one, you can go ahead and do that. So do as many rows as you require to get the length you want, and make sure you end on a row of double crochet stitches. All right guys, I ended up doing a total of 60 rows for the very first panel. Remember, we're working this skirt in 2 panels, so 60 rows for the very first panel, and I ended on a row of block stitches, the one of double crochets without the mesh pattern. And from here you're going to make a chain of 1. I've already made a chain of 1, and you're going to cut your yarn. So let's see what we have. So you're going to repeat the same exact process for your second panel. As you can see, I have 2 panels here. I have this one and this one. They are 2 identical panels, as you can see here. And now we are going to put everything together. So we're going to get one of the panels and put it on top of the second panel, just like this, and make sure everything is aligned. And we're going to join the sides of the 2 panels. So when you finish your second panel, don't cut your yarn, just leave it attached. We're going to use that tail to join the 2 panels on the side. All right, so the way that we are going to do this, we're going to go into each and every row, placing 2 single crochets. So go into the very first row on each panel and place 2 single crochets. And then go into the next row, which is the mesh row, and place 2 single crochets, and repeat that all the way down. Two single crochets in each and every row, attaching the panels together. So I've just placed my very last 2 single crochets in the last mesh row at the base of the skirt, and from here you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and then we have 2 loose ends here, so you can just decide to tie them and get rid of them, just like this. So let's see the right side of the work. You should be having something very neat. You can see that the seam line is almost invisible. It's here, and it looks very neat and blends into the pattern very well. So we are now going to put our work back onto the wrong side, and we are going to join the opposite side, which is the second seam line on the opposite side of the skirt, all the way from up here down to the feet here. So grab your yarn, and you're going to start off with the very first row, attach your yarn, and you're going to still make 2 single crochets in each and every row all the way down. Alright guys, we're done with joining the second side, and you should be having a tube-like structure for your skirt. Now after this, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn and get rid of the loose ends, either by tying them or weaving them in using a darning needle. Okay, so you're going to turn your skirt onto the right side, because the side where you've worked the single crochet row is the wrong side. We don't want to see this seam line. So you're going to just flip it over and turn it onto the right side so that we don't see the seam line. We shall see it, it's somewhere here, but it will be much neater on the right side of the skirt. Okay, so this is what you're going to have. Alright guys, after creating the skirt portion of the dress, we're going to go ahead and start shaping the upper part of the dress. So you'll need a few things at this point. You'll need your measuring tape and your stitch markers, and of course your yarn and your crochet hook. So what we are going to do first is to mark the front side of our work. So you don't even have to mark it. You're going to just consider one panel as the front side. So for me, this will be the front side, and it's the one that we are going to work on first. Then later on, we shall go to the back and do some shaping as well, in order to get a very nice fitting around the waist area as well as the bust area. So you're going to get your measuring tape, and you're going to measure across the very first panel, or the panel that's facing you right now. So this will be my front panel, and I have a total of about 19 to 20 inches. As you can see, I'm just stretching it slightly. And you're also going to put this measuring tape across your chest from one armpit to the other armpit, and for that I'm considering 12 inches from armpit to armpit, where your arms get off your body. So I'm considering 12 inches for that measurement. And then here we have a total of about 20 inches when slightly stretched. So we're going to first work on the front panel, and then later on we go to the back panel, as I had mentioned earlier on. So grab your hook and your yarn, and make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. I know right now it's in a round, but we are going to be working in rows from one end to the other, and we are going to make sure that we are working in the opposite side, in the opposite direction of the previous row. So we are basically going to work from this seam line up to this seam line. We are not going to tamper with the back panel. So you're going to attach your yarn into the chain 3 of this panel. Attach your yarn there, and this is the mesh pattern because we ended on a block row. So we're going to make a chain of 3, and then, if we are working in the opposite direction of the previous row, then we have to attach our yarn on this side. We're going to attach our yarn into the very last stitch of this panel and make a chain of 3. 1, 2, and 3, and then you're going to skip over 2 stitches, 1, 2, and into the third you're going to place a double crochet. So we're going to create some decreases Since we had a total of 20 inches when we measured across, we want to bring it down to the 12 inches that we got when we measured across the chest from armpit to armpit. So that's the reason for the decreases at this point. So you're going to skip over 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, chain 2, skip over 2 stitches and 1 double crochet into the next. So from now onwards, you're just going to make a chain of 2, skip over 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next. So we're back to the original pattern. Continue doing that until you have 3 stitches left on your row. And I'll show you what to do next. So we are chaining 2, skipping 2 stitches, and 1 double crocheting into the next stitch. So repeat this until you get to the opposite seam line at the end of your panel. Until you have only 3 stitches left to finish up your front panel. So you can see the mesh pattern is back. All right, so we're coming towards the end of the row, and I have 1, 2 and the chain 3 on the edge. So I'll just skip over after you double crochet here. Don't make a chain of 2 after that. When you have 3 stitches left, you're going to just skip over 2 stitches, and on top of the next stitch, which is the chain 3, you're going to just go in there with a double crochet, and that way we have created a slant. We've created a decrease. So this is row 1 of the decreases. Now we're going on to row 2, and row 2 is going to basically be the block row, the one of double crochet stitches without the mesh pattern. So you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, after turning your work, you're going to skip over the next double crochet, skip over the chain 2 space, skip over the next double crochet and into the next chain 2 space. So skipping all this, and into the next space you're going to place 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 2 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So you can see how the decreases are behaving. We are trying to bring in our work in order to get 12 inches that we intend to have across our front panel. So continue creating 2 double crochets into the chain 2 spaces and 1 double crochet into the next stitch until you have 1 chain 3 space left on your row. All right, so we're almost coming to the end of the row, and you can see we have this chain 2 space and this one, and we want only one chain 2 space. So after placing 2 double crochets in your second last double crochet, in your second last chain 2 space, and you have this chain 3 plus the chain 2 here, you're going to skip over the next double crochet, skip over the chain 2 space, skip over the next double crochet, and you're going to place 1 double crochet on top of the chain 3 on the edge of the row. That's how we decrease this stitch. So you can see we have the same exact thing going on at this point. So we're going to go back to the mesh pattern. You're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and then you're going to skip over 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then into the next stitch you're going to place a double crochet, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, double crochet into the next, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and 1 double crochet into the next, and repeat that all the way across until you have 3 stitches left. Remember, the chain 3 at the beginning of the row counts as a stitch. So when you have 3 stitches left on your row, I'll show you what to do next. Chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next. So you can see how the shaping is being worked on. And at this point we are shaping the waist area. Alright, so we have 3 stitches left, and the stitches we are considering are this one, and the chain 3. So once you place your double crochet here, you're going to prepare for a double crochet by yarning over, skip over 2 stitches, and into the top of the last chain 3 you're going to place a double crochet there. So as you keep decreasing, keep bringing back your measuring tape and make sure you're almost at your desired length when slightly stretched. So for me, I want 12 inches, and that means I'm still going ahead to decrease because so far I have a total of about 14 inches. So I want to narrow it down to this length, 12 inches. So I'm going to repeat row 2 of the decreases. So make a chain of 3, turn my work, skip over the next double crochet, skip over the next chain 2 space, skip over the next double crochet, and then into the space you're going to place 2 double crochets. So let me go ahead and double crochet into the next stitch, 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space, and go all the way across until you have 1 chain 2 space left on your row. Alright, so when we have 1 chain 2 space left on your row, after placing 2 double crochets into the second last chain 2 space of the row, you're going to prepare for a double crochet by yarning over, skip over the next double crochet, skip over the chain 2 space, skip over the double crochet, and you're going to place a double crochet on top of the chain 3 on the edge of the row. That's the same exact thing that we did for row 2 of the decrease rows. Now we're going to bring back our measuring tape. Remember, our intended measurement is 12 inches, and I think we've achieved that. At this point, you can see it slightly stretches to 12 inches. And from here, we're going to go back to the plain rows of the mesh and the block rows without decreasing. So to do that, make sure you stop decreasing on this row, the block row of double crochets, not on the mesh row. So for the next row, you're going to make a chain of 5, turn your work, and you're going to skip over 2 stitches and 1 double crochet into the next stitch, just like this. Chain 2, skip over 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So the chain of 5 here counts as a double crochet chain 2. So we're going to continue with our mesh pattern until we have 3 stitches left, and I'll show you how to wind up. All right, now this time when you have 3 stitches left, you're going to make a chain of 2, skip over the 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet on top of the chain 3 on the edge. This time we're not going to decrease. That's why we've chained 2 here, and at the beginning we made a chain of 5 instead of a chain of 3. So we are going back to the plain rows. So for the next row, you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and you're going to make 2 double crochets into the very first chain 2 space, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 2 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and you're going to repeat this all the way across. So go back to the plain rows, repeating the mesh row as well as the double crochet row until you get to your armpit level. So I'll be letting you know how many rows that I did in order to get to the armpit level, but for the decreases I did a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 rows for the decreases, and then I started the plain rows. As you can see, we were slanting before, and now the dress is taking shape. It's facing upwards. Alright guys, so from the skirt portion I decided to do a total of 22 rows, and that brought me to the level of my armpit where my hand gets off my mid body. So you're going to have to crochet until that point, and that is going to be your upper bust basically. So I did a total of 22 rows all the way up. And one thing that I wish I had done was to consider the 12-inch measurement without stretching, because I think the pattern has a tendency to shrink because it has a mesh sort of aspect within it, so it kind of pulls close. So that's one thing that you may think of doing if you're not getting the right sizing for your dress. So I did a total of 22 rows right from where we ended our skirt portion, and yeah, that marks the end of the front panel. So basically what we are going to do is to make straps once you get done with your very final row, and it should be a block row of double crochet stitches. So you're going to just make long straps of about maybe 200 chains. All right, so when you have your 200 chains, you're going to just make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn and fasten off. So what we've done right now is we have created our very first strap on this end. Now you're going to go ahead and attach your yarn on the opposite end. Remember, this is the front panel. So you're going to go ahead, attach your yarn at this corner as well, and make the same exact number of chains, which is 200 for my demonstration, because I have 200 on this side as well. So go into that corner here, attach your yarn with a slip knot, and then single crochet into the same space just to secure your strap, and then go ahead and make the same exact number of chains that you have on the opposite side. All right, so I'm through with my second strap and I have just cut off the excess yarn. So this is what you should have. This is the front panel of our dress. Now we're going to go to the back panel. Remember, we only worked one side, so one side should be longer than the other at this point. So remember, the skirt portion stopped on the lower waist or your hip bones. That's where the skirt portion ended, and this is the back panel that is unworked. The front panel has finished. We finished shaping the front panel, so we're going to attach our yarn. Now we're going to take a measurement. You're going to locate somewhere like around your waistline level, your mid-waist, like your navel area. So for me, that was around this point at this row of the front panel. Just mark it there where your waistline is when you put on this dress. So for me, this was the level that I wanted to do the shaping for the back panel until this point, because I don't want this dress to be low back or low cut. So we're going to attach our yarn so that we are working in the opposite direction of the back panel, and we are going to start shaping, but this time we are going to consider the waist measurement. So you're going to get your measuring tape and you're going to measure this point where you've marked your waistline level and try to stretch it a bit. So we are getting 14 inches, and the waist that I'm considering for this particular project is 32 inches. So you're going to get your waist measurement, which is 32 minus the 14 that you've got after measuring across this length. So we have 8 and 1. So that means we are going to, the number that you get, we've subtracted 14, which is this measurement, minus 32, which is the waist measurement that we are considering for this client. So what you get, which is the 18 inches, is supposed to be the length of the back panel. So what do we have right now? The back panel currently measures about 20 inches. And that means we are going to just narrow it down by 2 inches, and that should be enough. So remember the decreases that we did for the front panel. Those decreases, we're going to go back to them so that we get our intended 18 inches instead of the 22 inches. Because if you leave it at this, then that means the waist is going to be much bigger than the waist of the client. So I usually use the measurements of the client and I get a perfect fitting. So you're going to grab your yarn and you're going to attach it in the last stitch of your back panel, somewhere around here. And you're going to make a chain of 3. Let me just put this out of the way right now. Okay, we can leave 1 stitch marker just to remind ourselves of the level of the waistline. So I just want to show you exactly what's happening because the yarn is black and we may not be able to see what's going on. So after a chain of 3, skip 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into the next. So this is our very first decrease row. So from here onwards, we are just chaining 2, skipping 2 stitches and 1 double crocheting into the next stitch. So we are going to do this until you have 3 stitches left on your row. All right, now we have 3 stitches left on our row. As you can see, we've worked all the way from here to here, so we have 3 stitches left on our row, and you're going to this time you're not going to make a chain of 2. After you double crochet here, you're going to skip over 2 stitches and into the last stitch, or just go into the space after the second double crochet and just place a double crochet there. Remember, we are creating decreases so that we can decrease the 20 inches that we have across to 18 inches. So from here, you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. And you're going to skip the next double crochet, skip the next chain to space, skip the next double crochet, and double crochet twice into the next chain to space. So remember this decrease. I hope you still remember how to do it, as I had explained it in detail on the front panel. Then from here, double crochet into the next double crochet, 2 double crochets into the next chain to space, and repeat that across, placing 1 double crochet into each double crochet and 2 double crochets into each chain to space all the way across until you have 2 chain 3 spaces left. 2 chain 2 spaces, not chain 3 spaces. 2 chain 2 spaces left, and I'll show you what to do when you're coming to the end of the row. So this is the block row, the one that creates the double crochet stitches, but even then we have decreased. As you can see here, we don't have a straight line, we have a slant. So that means we are shaping the waistline, because for the skirt portion we had considered the hip measurement, and that means when the dress starts going upwards, we are going to end up having a very loose fitting around the waist, since most of the body proportions, most people have a smaller waistline than their hip measurement, their hip circumference. So you have to consider that. Okay, we're almost coming to the end of the row, and I'll show you how to wind up. So I told you to stop at a point where you have 2 chain 2 spaces left. Remember, this is a chain 3, so we have 2 chain 2 spaces left. So we're still going 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. So that brings us to only 1 chain 2 space left. And after placing 2 double crochets into the second last chain 2 space, you're going to yarn over, skip over the next double crochet, skip over the chain 2 space, skip over the next double crochet, and on top of the chain 3 you're going to place a double crochet right there. And that way we have balanced exactly what we have on this side and on this side. So let's see what we have now. You're going to grab your measuring tape and see if we have gotten the 18 inches. Make sure you don't overstretch your work, otherwise this is going to be very tightly fitted on your client and it may be a bit uncomfortable. So I have this. Okay, when slightly stretched, we get to our 18 inches. As you can see here. So that means I'm going to stop decreasing. I'm now going to work my plain rows until I get to this level of the navel, but I want to stop on the block row. So that means I still have 1, 2, 3, and 4 more rows. When I finish this one, then I'll be back to show you what to do. So just work until the level of your navel, but make sure you end on a row that is block, that is not mesh. And I'll be back to show you. Remember the block, the non-decrease rows, you start off with a chain of 5, skip over the next 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet into the next. So we've gone back to the original pattern that we were working for the lower part of the skirt, the plain rows without any decreases. And keep repeating the mesh row and the block row until you get to the level of the navel. So don't forget, when you come to the end of the mesh row, you're going to chain 2, skip over the last 2 stitches and go on top of the chain 3 with 1 double crochet, just like that. And that marks the end of the mesh row. And then make a chain of 3, turn your work. Now this is the block row, so you're going into the chain 2 space with 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet into the next, 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space, 1 double crochet into the next double crochet, and repeat that all the way across. Alright guys, so I've worked my rows until I reached the level of the waistline, and I've ended with a block row. As you can see here, we have the mesh row and then the block row. So what we're going to do right now is to join the sides. You see these open sides because we have a back panel and then the front panel that is even longer. So you're going to flip your work onto the wrong side and you're going to be able to join these 2 panels together. Just align them very well, and we're going to place 2 single crochets in each and every row until we get to the seam line of the skirt, which started from here. So go in here and the block row on this side and place 2 single crochets, 2 single crochets into the next row. This is going to take a very short while because the distance of the back panel extension is really short. So just go into each and every row with 2 single crochets and just reduce this so that it doesn't disturb us. And once you join it onto the seam line of the skirt, you're going to just place a slip stitch, chain 1 and cut your yarn. So what we've done here is to make sure that the seam line at the back is on the same side, and when you turn it onto the front side, we don't have anything showing around here. As you can see, we've done the shaping, yes, and that's why you see the dress is actually curved. That's why you see this is big and then it comes in and then the upper front panel. I'm sorry for using black, but I hope I'm explaining it well. If you don't get it, please let me know down in the comment section. Maybe I can record another tutorial or something. I just wanted to get done with this because this is the order that I got in black. So we are now going to go to this side as well, the opposite side, and we are going to join the 2 panels together, just this short distance. So attach your yarn. You can even start from the bottom if you wish. I'm going to start from the bottom. Attach your yarn and then 2 single crochets in each and every row. Make sure the seam line is on the same side so that we don't see that unneat bit on the outside part of the dress. So after your single crochet stitches, you're going to chain 1 and cut your yarn, pull through. So look at what we have right now. We've shaped the waist, and so we have a slant, right from the hips into the waist, and then this is the upper panel for the front panel. So at this point you're going to remove your stitch marker because we no longer need it. It has served its purpose, and this is basically it. You're going to weave in all your ends, and I'm going to try on the dress onto the dummy, and I show you how to lace up the back side of the dress. Alright guys, so basically this is how the back side is going to look like. When it comes to the front, you're going to lace up in any mesh row right below the bust, and then you bring it over to the next. I don't know how you want to lace it up, but you're going to just lace it up like a shoelace, wherever it's convenient for you. I'm going to try it onto my other dummy, and I see how it fits, because this dummy is quite thin and it's on the skinnier side, so it's not giving us that beautiful view. But I hope you're getting the bigger picture of this, of how the dress is supposed to be laced up. Some people may even go into this very fine row of mesh at the back, so that this is brought in perfectly well, just like we did for the mesh dress that we did in our previous video. So let me try it onto the next dummy, and we see how that works out.